Hello everybody, Tartan Rooster here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to some more Battlefield 6 news. Some new trailers have dropped and the massive multiplayer event did take place, and I wanted to ask a very important question. Is Battlefield 6 going to save the franchise? Well, this is a very complex question, hard to say the least at the moment until we get hands-on, until we get some time in that open beta to really see. But the way I wanted to approach that question is, of the things we've seen so far, what do I really think is going to be good for the franchise? What am I a little bit worried about, or things I'd like to see improved? And what didn't I like so far? And I have to say, overall, it has been a very good time to be a Battlefield fan. We have seen some really solid gameplay from a lot of YouTubers and streamers. I obviously am not one of those people, so I'm not going to be featuring any gameplay. I don't want to steal other people's gameplay. But you can watch quite a lot of that on YouTube at the moment. You can watch the full Battlefield event, which was about 4 hours, on the Battlefield YouTube channel, and then, you know, some of your favorites have posted and been on there. Tomographic, Two Angry Gamers, Jack Frags, Wolfenwork, those kinds of people. Even if you're approaching this from a Call of Duty standpoint and you're a fan of Call of Duty, you've got people like Tim the Tatman or whoever else. I'm not super familiar with the Call of Duty streamers, but some of them were invited to this as well, it seemed like. So, you know, lots of different perspectives, people that have been fans the whole time and only posted Battlefield, and maybe some streamers, etc., that are maybe newer to it. That's really good to see, but I think overall we've had a very positive experience. Now, I will say I'm very much in the crowd of don't pre-order it, especially because we have an open beta coming up, so try it. You know, try it out. It's your money at the end of the day. Do with it what you will. But I think it's important that you at least try the game before pre-ordering. And, you know, we've got to be careful about launches. I'm a bit cautious for the launch, because we have seen Battlefield titles in the past look really good and strong, and then the launch is terrible and we have to wait 3 months before we get a polished game. Hopefully that's not the case this time, and hopefully that won't impact the live service rollout. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second, because, you know, if the game is good and working and everything goes well, let's say best case scenario it does, then the team can really focus on developing the live service. What happened in 2042 and even Battlefield 5 is the game had a ropey start, and then live service was few and far between, really drip feeding over a long period of time. But again, I want to talk a little bit about that in a minute. So let's start off with the things that I liked about the reveal and the gameplay I've seen so far. The main thing that I really like is that it is grounded in its tone, it is gritty, and it is brutal. There are a lot of brutal kills and deaths and screaming, and, you know, it feels like a war game. It doesn't feel like everything's pretty and lovely in the background and there's people saying things, you know, that sound like catchphrases on a really cheesy action movie. It actually sounds like, you know, man down, I'm hit, that kind of thing, like normal sort of chatter, which is really cool, which adds to the grounded tone. One of the things I want to mention early here is the music choice. The music choice for that multiplayer reveal trailer was Limp Bizkit's Break Stuff, which obviously I'm going to keep muted for YouTube reasons, but really cool to see that. And it reminded me a lot of the Battlefield 3 reveal when they used 99 Problems. So they used a song that was really easy to identify. It was a really big song, and speaks to the era perhaps they're trying to reflect in Battlefield 3, that sort of you know, new metal era of Battlefield 3 and things like that. So they're maybe trying to showcase, hey, we've listened to what you guys want. You want to return to Battlefield 3 and 4, and so we're going to match that tone with the music choice, and not afraid to drop some swear words in a reveal trailer, which I love. That's cool. That's really cool, and adds to that almost grittiness in my head, which is kind of interesting. The sound design, obviously it's a Battlefield game. DICE are notoriously good at making good sound effects, and things sound really great, and I think the main thing that highlights that is the sound of jets. If you watch any of the gameplay and you hear a jet flying over, oh my god, it sounds amazing. The guns themselves, very punchy, very heavy, feel like they do a lot of damage. There is some weapons that we saw, some of the LMGs, that seem to tickle people rather than actually do any damage to them, and I wonder if that's playing into suppression. You know, in different Battlefield titles have handled suppression differently, so that's basically where you're receiving incoming fire, and the idea is that it makes the LMG stronger. So one of them is that you might get spotted and you'll see visual differences on your screen, so it's harder for you to concentrate and hit that person, therefore helping the team that is engaging you. In other games we've seen, if you're suppressed, your weapon bullets your bullets sort of deviate all over the place, which is crap, and I'm not a big fan of that. But I like the idea of visual, you know, and suppression spotting people is really cool, because it gives the LMG gunners more of a role in that. So It's kind of interesting to see that the LMGs aren't hitting very hard, but causing suppression. I don't know if that's intentional, but it's kind of interesting. But yeah, most of the weapons are really punchy, hard-hitting, brutal, adds into the whole tone of the game. There is a really big Battlefield 3 tone throughout. I mean, even especially because they've got the remaster of Operation Firestorm, which was remastered in Battlefield 4, but it looks phenomenal in this. And I swear there's a blue tint on that screen, but I don't think there is. But it's kind of that mentality of Battlefield 3 is really coming through. We're seeing a bit more team play between classes than certainly we saw in 2042. Yes, there is team play between classes now, but it took a long time for A, classes to be there, and B, team play to actually happen. But it seems like there's a lot of gadgets, a really phenomenal variety in gadgets here, which is cool. It's not just the standard gadgets that you see. You've got AA, you've got anti-tank mines that fire up into the air. You've got ladders, which is a really cool feature actually, especially with destruction and being able to blow holes in buildings. You can actually set ladders up and rush your squad up in an unexpected direction. There is that moment in the reveal trailer where everyone's running up the ladders that looks really amazing, really cool, and fits, and isn't just a gimmicky, here's a ladder. It actually looks like it fits with what is going on the screen as well. Movement, for me, looks really good. It's exactly what I wanted. There are a lot of Battlefield diehards from Battlefield 2 era that don't believe in things like, I don't know, sliding and leaning, modern movement. You've got to move with the industry. There is sliding in it, and from what I read on Twitter, there is a bit of a bug at the moment. So sometimes you'll see the slides really quick, really far. That's not how they're supposed to work. Apparently, that was a bug with the build that isn't going to be in the open beta that has been fixed. I'm okay with sliding. I don't mind. I think, sliding's been in 2042. Do I think I lose gunfights because people slide around corners more than usual? Probably not, to be honest. It's nice to have that as a player, being able to, you're engaged, slide into cover, hide, calculate your next move. I'm pro sliding and pro movement. I think there is a lot of old guard that aren't going to like it, but, at the end of the day, it's a Battlefield game. It was never supposed to be a milsim or anything like that. It's not supposed to have milsim movement. But you can take cover, you can peek. From what I understand, you can't manually peek out of cover, but there's a little symbol that appears that shows you can peek out. I think this is how it's worked in things like BF5 possibly before. But yeah, a lot of movement here. Crouch running, which was really good in BF5, especially in breakthrough modes where you have to run. Basically, you're in incoming fire all the time, so it's useful to crouch sprint and maybe take a little bit less damage, try and get to cover, try and get to your squad mates, that sort of thing. I'm all for that. You can serpentine, you can lie on your back, you can, for me, it adds a bit more of a connection to the game. The movement is really crucial, and I'm glad to see what they've done with the movement. I'm actually very happy with it. Vehicles themselves look really good and sound really good. As I said, there seems to be a good balance for AA. There's stationary AA positions that I've seen. There's Gepards, anti-aircraft vehicles that move around, and obviously the counters. 2 jets are other jets and 2 helicopters are other jets. I watched a lot of gameplay of people really dominating on the ground in helicopters, but those helicopters didn't last. They were always shot down. They were always locked onto by stingers, or rockets were shot at them, or AA. So, there's good counters. Really good dominant heli pilot can ruin a lobby in a lot of cases, but it seems to be fairly balanced. But we'll have to see how that plays out in the open beta once us regular folk get our hands on the game and the ability to play through it. But I saw a good bit of balance. There are some players, Squid G, who is a very good jet pilot in Battlefield and has been for a long time. You saw him in those live streams, just no one could touch him. But it's a game that's going to reward highly skilled players, as it should, in my opinion. But yeah, it was really cool to see that. One of the really nice little details I really liked is if you watch any of the footage of helicopters being shot down, the helicopter is shot down, it is burning, it's spinning, it hits the ground, debris goes everywhere. It looks bloody brilliant. If you ask me, it looks really cool. I like the ambience as well. Radio chatter is quite prominent, especially in vehicles. You can hear just general Battlefield stuff. It adds to the immersion, which I really like. It's a really little thing, but I really like it. Portal in its new iteration looked amazing. It looked exactly what I talked about in a video a few months ago where I asked about, should Portal be in the new game? What they've done with it is interesting. It looks like it's going to be more like a Halo Forge type deal, which is exactly what I wanted, an actual level editor as well as just a game mode editor. Really cool to see that. Really enjoyed it. Lots of soldiers yelling as well. That adds back into the ambience. I really like that. Good variety in gadgets, as I said. Destruction is here, and boy, do they want you to know about it. There were both reveal trailers, both the single player and multiplayer, had a lot of helicopters crashing into buildings, a lot of building faces crumbling and crashing down, and yeah, it looks really, really good. Adds to that realism. Setting is perfect for this, the sort of near future but modern, which means you get a lot of familiarity. But maybe they'll throw in some new experimental weapons and things like that in there. Maybe not too over the top, but I think the new British assault rifle, or the new assault rifle that's replacing the L85, is in this game. Things like that, kind of cool to see, and you know, get a bit of hands-on time with that sort of thing as well. Maps at launch 9, not a huge number, but a pretty decent number. Hopefully, as I said, if the launch goes really well, they can focus on that live service, and we need to get more than one map every 3 months, because that's kind of what was happening with 2042, and some of those maps weren't great. We got some really solid maps by the end. Reclaimed might be my favorite map in all of Battlefield 2042, to be honest. A really, really great map. Love the way that plays every time I play it, and I've played it in so many different ways, and you've seen footage of me doing that. You know, you can play infantry, you can play vehicles, so hopefully that kind of level of level design, I guess. And I'm hoping that, and it seemed to be the case, that vehicles are curated for maps. I said in one of my previous videos that was vital for this new Battlefield to succeed and do really well. Is, you know, don't let players pick any vehicle they want at any point. It defeats the flow of a map. So it's good to see that you know, they're picking and choosing what vehicles are on what maps. I think some of the infantry focused ones only have IFVs, and things like that. You know, they're not going to have massive helicopters coming in on these tight streets. Like, it doesn't make sense. So it's good to see a nice variety, and they talk about that. You know, there is something for everyone here. If you like your close quarters infantry, if you want your big battles, if you want combined arms, you know, whatever it is you're looking for, hopefully you'll be able to find it. And if you can't find it, guess what? You can create it in Portal. So those are all the things that I really liked and really enjoyed and wanted to mention without going too nitty gritty. I just want to give a nice overview. I'm not trying to make this video too long, but you know, those kinds of steps are a good step in the right direction to help, you know, renew fan confidence in Battlefield and maybe save the franchise. Who knows? A couple of things I'd like to see improved / looked at in the future. The one glaring thing for me that I'm gonna have to just see how it plays when I get hands on. So I'm not trying to, you know, say this is awful, worst game ever. Must be a specific perk or something, because not everyone had it, but people were able to carry Stingers and RPGs, so it meant that they could take out air vehicles and ground vehicles. But I always liked the way it worked in BF3 and BF4, where you had to choose, you know. If you've picked a Stinger to deal with a helicopter and a tank comes around the corner, then you have to find other teammates that have AT weaponry to deal with it, you know. I don't know if it's maybe too versatile as a class. I mean, I like playing as engineer. Most of my time in Battlefield is usually playing as an engineer. I like repairing, attacking vehicles, that sort of thing, blowing things up. Blowing things up is always good. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that's balanced. It looked like they got a lot of rockets for both as well. Assault also has 2 grenade launchers. Same idea. You can put 2 different types of ammo, and it's a lot of ammo you get. So kind of interesting. I think maybe I'd prefer for the grenade launchers, maybe you can choose the type of grenade. So like you carry 2 HE, 1 smoke, 1 thermobaric, 1 incendiary. I'm not going to say that word. And you can choose between them without picking 2 different grenade launchers. I don't know. I think it's interesting what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a versatility in the classes. That's obvious, but is it too much? Especially for air vehicles. They're already dealing with stationary AA and mobile AA. And yes, Stingers. Yeah, absolutely. But if everyone has a Stinger and everyone has an RPG, it's interesting. I saw a few people criticize that. But again, I'm going to see what it's like when we get hands-on starting next weekend. Weapon sling. I was going to complain a bit about this, which is where the assault can pick 2 primary weapons and it was any primary weapon, but they've nerfed that down now, so it seems to be that you can only choose non-signature weapons. So signature weapons are LMG, SMG, AR, sniper rifle. Non-signature, carbine, shotgun, DMR. So I'm okay with it. I think that'll be fine. I mean, Call of Duty has done this for a long time, where you could pick a perk that gives you 2 primary weapons, and it's never felt too OP except in Warzone. And I think that might be the reason that you can pick 2 primary weapons is for the Battlefield BR, which we saw a tiny little snippet of at the event as well. HUD, I like the HUD overall, but I think there are some elements that I would shrink down, so I'm hoping that there's just going to be massive customization there, so hopefully I can adjust the size of different elements of the HUD. But that's a very minor thing. I mean, if that's the biggest problem that we have at launch, so be it. It's not too bad. There were a few things that I didn't like, and I'm going to say the obvious one, not locking weapons to classes. Now, there were some examples from some streamers that talked about this. Will from Work did a really good video about this. Well, not just about this, but he talked about this, which is having any weapon on any class means that recons are incredibly overpowered with their spawn beacons. You can keep chaining spawn beacons up and everyone's got close range SMGs, so they can really hammer their way through objectives. So you're not, you know, an assault player that's hoping that there's a recon on your squad that comes with you and puts spawn. We're going to be able to test both in the beta. They've said that. I will test both. I absolutely will, even if I don't like not locked ones. I'll try it. 2042 doesn't have locked weapons and plays fine for the most part, but you know, I was kind of hoping, as most of the game was focusing on returning to form, that return to form would include returning to class locked weapons. It meant that there was more than one reason for picking a class. You weren't just picking a class for its gadgets, but you're picking a class for its weapons. So, you know, it made you focus in and specialize, and made team play much better and made people work together, which I liked. The other obvious thing that I don't like, where server browser? They haven't mentioned it. There was a tweet from one of the developers recently that basically said that they were looking at it and what is it that we as an audience liked about server browser. Obviously, it's the fact that you can build a community. You can find a community that you like playing with. You can make some friends. It's really cool to do that. You do get a little bit of that in 2042 if you play some of the Portal featured modes like Friday Night Battlefield. It's a rolling server, so the people you play with, you stay with unless they quit. And I've had some of the best experiences in Battlefield 2042 playing in those servers, just for that, you know, working together, getting to know people, squadding up with people, where, you know, you can see where people are good, where people that might need support on your team. And I don't know, it just adds to the connection that you have to the game. It's not just about what you do in a match, it should be what you do on your time in the game. You spend 3 hours in a server with the same people, you're going to make some friends, you're going to make some enemies, and you're going to have a better time, in my personal opinion. There was a statement that I didn't like. Cast of memorable characters, which, God, please let that only apply to single player. I don't want any of the single player characters in multiplayer, because that's usually the first sign that they're going to start adding characters, and I don't want that. I want my soldier to have a lot of customization options as a soldier. I don't want to turn into the bad guy or the protagonist or any of the other characters. I want to have my soldier in multiplayer be a soldier that can be customized. And again, I think I'm overreacting, but I did want to mention that I didn't really like that. And the one thing that we will have to see is how Pax Armada works. So, as a, you know, a paramilitary corporation, how that works in the lore is going to be interesting. I don't think it hugely matters for multiplayer. For single player, it does matter quite a lot. And I wonder actually if China and Russia will be involved in either Pax Armada, let's be honest, or NATO, but probably Pax Armada, since they didn't want to make China or Russia, who, you know, they're historically the bad guys or the other side of the conflict, because obviously they want to protect sales, they want to be able to sell the game in China and Russia, which is totally understandable, but kind of interesting that they chickened out on putting an actual faction as the bad guys. So we'll have to see how that works. Overall, in conclusion, I think that we're making steps in the right direction from what I've seen so far. It is vitally important that we as a community get hands-on and make our own decisions at launch and through the beta, so please do play the open beta. It starts this weekend, 9th and 10th of August, and I think it's also 14th through 17th of August as well. I'll put information about the beta on screen. Do try the game. Let me know what your thoughts are about the reveal and what you've seen so far. I will be putting some gameplay up from the beta. If you don't have time to play the beta and want to know what my opinions are, I will be recording a lot of gameplay. How I use that gameplay, I'm not sure, but I'm going to be recording a lot of gameplay and probably playing with some friends that are interested in this as well. Overall, I think we're going in the right direction. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. As always, it's your money, do with it what you will, but I would probably recommend not pre-ordering, at least until you've actually tried the game. But what are your thoughts in the comments below? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching all of this. Hope you're enjoying me rant. If you are, give me a like. And subscribe if you want to see more from me. I will be featuring a lot of Battlefield 6 content and variety content going forward, and that's always an easy way to help me out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.